Hello, I hope you're keeping well because I'm recording this at the time of the coronavirus outbreak. And the question I'm getting asked quite a lot, as you might imagine, is how long will it take me to write a book? If you're stuck at home and you're thinking of doing so, it really does help, doesn't it, to know how long it's going to take you. So I'm going to try and give you an answer which helps you to answer it for yourself. What do I mean by that? Well, you have your own particular writing speed, your writing style, and you've probably got your own preferences in terms of how much time you can or want to put in. But that ends up making the question a bit like how long is a piece of string, and that's not very helpful either. So I'm going to give you some ideas that you can apply and come up with a more sensible idea for yourself. Now, working sort of bottom up almost in terms of nuts and bolts, it's useful if you can get some idea for yourself of how quickly you can get a page finished. So it's quite simple. What I suggest you do is you get your word editor. Typically, most people work with something like Microsoft Word, but whatever you're using, it doesn't really matter. But set the page size to something that's similar to the page size of the ultimate book that you'll be writing. As a rough guide, if you use A5, that will give you a pretty good idea. Another alternative is to just check whatever other size you're using. A popular size is novel if you're writing non-fiction, if you're writing fiction rather. So anyway, set your document editor to a page size that's the sort of size you expect the final book to have, roughly that size, and then write a sample page or more, but at least one page on that. Now, time yourself while you're doing this, and there's several things to time. Time how long it takes to write the first draft. Obviously, you need to think about what you're going to write about before you get started, but how long it takes you to write that first draft, note the time for that, and then time yourself again to go through and edit it into a more finished state. If when you've done that you feel that the one page that you've written is actually pretty reasonable state, then I'd stop at that point and then do some easy calculations. Now, what do I mean by easy calculations? Well, most books are 100 pages or more, although these days with attention spans coming down, you'll find small guides which are perfectly respectable books at round about 50 pages and occasionally even less. So you could take the time that you've taken to write and edit your page, whatever that happens to be, and then multiply that by 50, because that will give you probably the absolute minimum number of hours that you're going to be working on this. Or you might multiply it by 100 for a typical book size. Now, of course, your book could end up a lot bigger than that, and you may have some idea in advance of how big it's going to be. So you might say, oh, what if it's 200 pages? There's a bit of guesswork here, but if you multiply the time for one page by 200, it is going to give you a rough idea of how many hours you're going to have to put in. And having got that rough idea, then you can ask yourself, well, how many hours a week am I prepared or able to put in? And if you're serious about it and you want to sustain this, then 2 or 3 hours a day will certainly get the job done. 4 hours a day is pretty good. Actually, going over that you tend to become counterproductive. So lots of professional book writers will only write for about 4 hours a day. They spend the rest of the time doing other things, thinking about it and so on. But under pressure, you do get people spending all day and very long days writing, and some people really turn it out. And to do that for a few days is not that onerous. and could be a way of getting the book written in a hurry. So if you know how many hours you think you're going to have to put in for getting the book written, and then you work out how many hours you can put in a week, you will have a pretty good idea of how long it will take you to get that first complete draft finished. And I think you'll find that that's actually quite encouraging, because you're saying, well, I now got some kind of idea of how long it's going to take me. There's a bit of a caveat on all this, because even when you've got a pretty good first draft completed of the whole thing, you'd be amazed how much more time you then need to spend getting your draft into a finished form. And to some extent, that's down to how much of a perfectionist you are and how high you want to push the quality and so on. There are some professional writers who redraft their work many times. You know, that it's not uncommon for people to work through 10 or more drafts, and each one will take a proportion of the time it took to write in the first place. How long are you going to take? Well, I just don't know, but even if you took the worst possible case that you'd expect, you again will have an idea of how long it's going to take you. There is other time involved here, which is, you know, sending off reviews and getting copies for review and getting people to come back. But again, you can get some kind of idea from that. So there we are. How long will it take you to write your book? You've now got a way of working it out. Coming at this from a completely different direction, I would say that most people who really set their minds to it and allocate a reasonable number of hours a week get their books written in under 3 months. And if it's a small book, say round about the 50 pages mark, then getting that done in a month to 6 weeks is perfectly doable. Well, it's down to you. At the end of the day, can you put the time in? You will become more efficient. You will get your book done if you want to. And the very best of luck with that. So the last thing to say, of course, is if you want to contact us for further help, let's just have a quick look of how you can do that. The simplest thing is to sorry, that would help if I put the right thing on the screen. The simplest thing is to contact us on at the Endless Bookcase, and please also consider subscribing, liking what you see here, and if you've got any questions, please post them and I'll endeavour to answer them in a future session. Bye for now.